I just love this sound.
It makes you want to say something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Profound. It makes you want to be profound.
I know what it makes her want to do. Right?
I'll tell you what it makes me want to do. I want to tell you this story. I have a ghost story. A true ghost story. Once upon a time in a little town in Massachusetts lived a mother and her child. And they lived in this old house. It was over 200 years old. And the landlord lived next door. And the mother used to sit in the living room and pray. Her manner of praying was chanting. She chanted, Nam yo ho renge kyo, Nam yo renge kyo, Nam yo ho renge kyo. And she'd do it in the morning and she'd do it in the evening. And sometimes in the evening it got to be pretty late at night when she did it, so the house was very quiet. Everyone was sleeping. And you couldn't hear any noise because she lived way out in the country. And one night when she was chanting like that, Nam yo ho renge kyo, Nam yo ho renge kyo, she heard a voice. And the voice said, "Get out!" She said, "Get out? Who said that?" Looked around, there was nobody in the room. She went back to chanting again. Nam yo ho renge kyo, Nam yo ho renge. And then she heard again, "Get out!" She got up, she walked around the room, and she couldn't see where it was coming from. So she finished chanting, went to bed, and around 3 o'clock in the morning, she heard her little girl in the other room talking. And her little girl was like 2 years old, and she was carrying on this great conversation. That's how it sounded from the other room. But she was going on and on and on, talking. So of course the mother got up and went in the other room and said, "Who is the child talking to?" There was nobody there. So just to be safe, after she looked around the room, she got the child out of the bed and brought her into her room and put her in the bed with her. And there were no more instances that night. And the next day, she got up, she went to work, took the child to daycare, and just went about her business. And it came time in the evening to chant again, and it was late because there were many things to do during the day. So she started chanting again, Nam myoho renge kyo. But this time she was sleepy. So as she was chanting Nam myoho renge kyo, she started falling asleep. And she said, "Oh my God, I'm falling asleep while I'm chanting." So she tried to wake up, but she kept falling asleep. And as she was falling asleep the second or third time, she heard this voice again. "Get out! Get out of my house! Get out! Get out! Get out!" And she saw this image in her mind, because she was kind of half asleep, half awake, of this old woman in a nightgown with long white hair hanging down, screaming, "Get out! Get out! Get out of my house!" She saw that image in her mind, but where she saw it coming from was behind her, where there was a closet that she never put anything in. So of course, she had to gather together her courage, get up from the chair, go over to the closet and open it. And it took a long time for her to open that closet, but finally she put her hand on the door and she turned the knob and she pulled the door open, and the closet was empty. Okay, a year goes by.
Oh, Lord, Nina.
She goes into this bookstore, a metaphysical bookstore that's in this little town in the country. And that's kind of unusual for this metaphysical bookstore to be there in the country. So she goes inside, and it turns out that the owner is a friend of hers that she went to high school with. And they're talking, "Oh, I haven't seen you in years, and how are you? And you got married, and you have a family, and I do too, and I live in this town now. You do? Yeah, I do too. Where do you live? I live over here." And so then the door said, well, I haven't always lived where I live. I used to live in this little house. A little house where? Just up the street, around the corner. Really? Yeah. I said, well, he said, and it was the strangest house. Really? Yeah, it was very strange. And he said, well, what happened is, well, you won't believe this. Go ahead, tell me. The house was haunted. Haunted? He says, yeah. There was an old lady in a nightgown with white hair, and she was always seen in the house. You saw an old lady in a nightgown with white hair in the house? Yes, I did, and my daughter did, and my wife did, and we all saw her. And so he went on and on with the story, and I said, well, where was the house? And he said the address, and it was the exact same address where I lived. So I told him. I said, that's where I live now. And I saw this exact same lady in my mind's eye when I was chanting, and I heard her screaming, get out, get out! So we thought that was odd. I talked to the landlord, the mother. She talked to the landlord, and the landlord said, oh yes, this house used to be owned by an old woman who died in that living room. So, are there ghosts? Can they be heard?
Of course.
Of course. And this is the time of year when the veil is the thinnest between dimensions. So this is the time of year to keep your eyes open and your ears open to see who's trying to communicate to you.